How would you like to never have to shovel snow again? We're going to talk about 6 places you can retire overseas so that snow is not a part of your life. I'm Kathleen Petticord.
I'm Leif Simon.
Welcome to a new edition of our Live and Invest Overseas podcast. Today, we want to look at how to escape winter, how to make sure winter and everything that goes with it, the snow and the ice and all of that sticking indoors and being stuck and shoveling, that disappears from your life. And the truth is, it's pretty easy to do. You have lots of great options where it's just sunny all the time.
Right. You don't have to go too far south, even in the U.S., to not have to worry about snow. The snowbirds have been going to Arizona and Florida, California for years. But just farther south, you can have a less expensive lifestyle than those destinations and still avoid the snow and the cold weather. So we're going to talk about 6 destinations that you can do that. But also, some people like still to have 4 seasons. So
Right.
we do have one destination on the list that you can still have 4 seasons, mild seasons without the snow,
Without a real winter.
rather than either perpetual spring or really 2 seasons, which is what most of the tropics have, a dry and a rainy season.
Exactly.
So
All right,
first
so
on our list
is the nearest, easiest place in many ways to launch a new life overseas, and that's Mexico.
right? You can drive there,
Mhm.
and so it's become a more popular destination during the pandemic. We have a friend who splits his time between California and Mazatlan, and he has actually been able to go back and forth a couple of times in the last year driving. And so,
Since the border has remained open.
right, so Mexico is easy. Mexico has lots of destinations within it. It's a big country, so you just have to decide whether you prefer Pacific Coast, mountains, or Caribbean coast.
Right. And all of them would meet your objective, the agenda that we're discussing, which is you would leave winter behind. So in all of these places, options along both coasts, it's going to be warm year-round, in some instances hot. There
Right.
will be a hot time of year. In the mountain, in the highlands of Mexico, you can have a much more temperate, maybe spring-like climate, but again, nothing like a winter.
Right, it's not going to get cold.
All right, number 2 on our list is a place we know pretty well and a perennial top choice for living and retiring overseas, especially if your agenda, again, is to escape winter, and that's Panama.
Right, and again, it's not that you have to go from one extreme to the other. Panama is hot and humid along the coast and the lowlands, but it has highland mountain areas that are much cooler. But again, no snow. It's going to be in the lows, maybe in the 60s, sometimes in a place like Boquete, generally 70, 80 degrees during the day, maybe a little bit hotter during the dry season. But you don't have to put up with the 90-degree weather that you can see down on the coast.
And as Leif mentioned, these places do still have seasons. There is seasonality that you want to pay attention to, but it's not hot and cold, it's wet and dry.
Right.
And in Panama, the wet season, or they refer to it as the green season because it's when everything greens up, the summer.
It's a marketing spin on
it is. It's the propaganda, but it's legitimate. The country definitely does green up within a couple of weeks of the rain starting.
Right.
And they refer to this time of year, the Panamanians, as summer, and it's when their kids are off school and they all take their holidays and enjoy their beaches because there's no rain. So this period is January, beginning in December.
Historically, for Panama, December 15th to April 15th is the dry season. Of course, with weather change and just general year-to-year changes, whether it's an El Nino or La Nina, that can be different. But this year, the rain stopped in mid-December.
Right, pretty much on time.
Right, and so throughout Central America, the dry season is similar, but changes country to country. So while Panama is typically December 15th to April 15th, Costa Rica is slightly different. Nicaragua is slightly different. Belize is slightly different. So,
and also, just not to belabor this point too much, but to give you an idea, when we talk about the rainy season, that doesn't mean that for all the rest of the year in Panama, it rains all the time, all day, every day.
Right. It's not Indian monsoons 24 hours a day.
Right.
The rainy season starts, it builds up steam, so to speak, builds up some progress. And really the worst months in the rainy seasons for all of Central America are going to be October and November. And in fact, the worst month in Nicaragua is August for some reason. It rains a lot in August and then it lightens up again in September, and then it gets bad again by November.
And while we're talking about weather, I think it's nice to point out, or a good idea to point out, remind you, Panama does not get hurricanes.
Right. There were the 2 hurricanes that came across and effectively hit Nicaragua straight on this year. One turned north and one went through the country to the Pacific side. Panama saw some rains in its western border with Costa Rica, and in the mountains there was a little bit of flooding and mudslides, we were told, but not the big winds, and it didn't affect the entire country. Much less damage than you saw in places like Nicaragua and Honduras and El Salvador.
Right. All right. Number 3 on our list of places to go to escape winter is Belize.
Right. Belize, again, part of Central America, attached to Mexico, on the Caribbean side of the continent. So you're going to have the Caribbean beach areas. You do have mountain areas. They're not as high as they are in, say, Panama or Costa Rica, but you can get a little bit cooler weather in Cayo. So again, you're not looking at, mid 80s,
Really
mid 80s
hot.
to mid 90s.
Right.
You're looking at, low 80s, high 70s in the cool part of the year. But again, wet and dry season there. And Belize does get hit by hurricanes. So you want to be aware of that and just take that into consideration.
Right. And 2 other, I think, important points to make for Belize if you're making your list. We're always talking about comparing and contrasting and making lists of pros and cons country to country as you shop for your options and try to find the one that best suits you. In the plus column for Belize, it's drivable like Mexico.
Right.
And during this time of the pandemic, for example, it makes the point about the importance of accessibility. And so a place like Mexico or Belize where it's possible to drive, that's a big plus.
I would say possible and easy.
Right.
Because you can drive to Panama. It's not quite as easy.
Right.
Going through all the multiple countries, making sure you have the right paperwork. But getting through Mexico to Belize is fairly straightforward.
Okay. Number 4, places to escape winter, Colombia.
Right. And so Colombia is, again, a big country, lots of options. We generally talk about Medellin, which is in the mountains, which has one level of eternal spring-like weather. Of course, when you say that, everybody gets a different idea in their head. But Medellin is typically right at 80 degrees for the high every day, and it cools off into the 60s every night. But that's every day, every night. There is a rainy season and a dry season. It's hard for me to tell which is which, frankly.
It can kind of rain all year round.
Little. Right. It rains a little bit all year round. It rains a little bit more in the rainy season. And so if you are looking for consistency, perfect sense. Alternatively, there's Cartagena and Santa Marta on the coast. So you're looking at warm, muggy weather there. Cali is another destination that we've talked about. It's not as high in altitude as Medellin, so it's a little bit hotter. Yeah.
Okay, number 5, Brazil.
So again, Brazil, lots of coastline, a huge country, so many options. We wouldn't recommend any of the big cities, even Rio de Janeiro, which is perennial tourist spot. Just it's overcrowded, well known and overcrowded. Mostly we talk about the Fortaleza area. Fortaleza itself is still a 3 million strong city. So there are areas outside of Fortaleza if you're looking for a little bit less population density. But again, no snow, great weather, and hurricane free because it's below the hurricane paths.
And Brazil's big plus, I think, are its beaches. That's really the reason to choose Brazil. If you like the idea of white sand, quintessentially beautiful white sand beach, Brazil has a lot of that to offer.
At a very affordable price.
At a very affordable price. Exactly. All right. And then number 6 on our list of places to go to escape winter, and specifically snow and ice, is a place that you might not come to mind. All of these other options, I think, if you map, they would make sense. Okay, well, that's a place I'll go and I won't worry about winter anymore. I'm going to leave that behind. This is a kind of a surprise destination, but we wanted to give you an option that's outside the Americas, first of all, because to make the point that you do have options outside the Americas, and that's in Europe, because some people just want Europe, don't want the developing world. And there's one really great option in Europe for great weather all year round, but still with 4 seasons, as we've mentioned, and that's Portugal.
Right. So Portugal can be cool in the winter, but not cold. Warm in the summer. Algarve can get hot, especially away from the coast into the 90s, but relatively dry compared to the tropics, the areas we've been talking about, Central America especially. And so, again, you're going to see or relatively mild seasons, a little bit warmer, leaning towards the warm side, depending on where you are. If you're up north in Porto, of course, it'll be cooler in winter and cooler in the summer as well. But you don't have snow to worry about. But of course, the whole Mediterranean ring, you don't have to worry about
Right.
snow. But it's going to be warmer to hot in most of the other places that we talk about in the Mediterranean.
And for example, France, which has its Mediterranean coast and can get hot, but here in Paris we get snow.
Right.
So that makes the point about thin slicing your options, which we talk about often. And so we have given you broad strokes here, 6 countries, and there would be many other options. And now, if this idea of escaping winter to any one of these countries interests you, you want to dig in, dive in, and look at each one closely and do your own thin slicing. And we can help, of course, through our daily e-letter, our free overseas opportunity letter, and our website, liveinvestoverseas.com, where we have a country hub section on every one of these countries. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that wherever you are in the world, winter isn't too bad yet. And maybe you're daydreaming about where you can go that's somewhere sunny. I hope we've given you some good ideas. We'll be in touch again soon. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.